Let's talk Chelsea. Richard Masters has said this past week that Abramovich's breaches are reaching a conclusion. What's the likely outcome of that?
Well, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because it'd be hard for the Premier League to penalise a past owner, and also it was the government that really got involved in that and made him a bit of a scapegoat for the Ukraine situation and the sanctions and the whole thing. So I don't expect to see anything really that would be in terms of points deductions or anything like that for Chelsea. I think it may well be. I really don't know which way they're going to go with this. I would think it would have to be somewhere around a financial situation that's already been accounted for and money being released in some way to Ukrainian refugees or some sort of situation like that. It's a tricky one politically, but I say it would be unfair to penalise Todd Bowley any further in terms of Abramovich's actions.
For sure. So you don't expect this to really have any effect on the day to day for Chelsea, not as if they don't have a bunch of their own problems to deal with.
No, I think when they first bought the club, I think they would have had those discussions at the time with the Premier League, and they'd have said, "Look, okay, well, we have to still uphold the rule book, and we find breaches, we won't be penalising you directly, and we'll find a way to handle." I think there's some money that Abramovich still has in some sort of form of escrow that could be used to try and use that for a sanction.
For sure. And speaking of Todd Bowley, Maresca has said that Chelsea owners have told them immediate priority is trimming the squad rather than actually qualifying for the Champions League. To me, the point of bringing all these players in was trying to get Chelsea back to the Champions League. Can you explain this one?
No, is a simple answer. I can't. It's ridiculous. I was looking at it the other day. I think Chelsea are now, by my calculations, with Felix, about 53 players in the squad. Everton, I think I counted the other day at 23. That gives you some idea of the disparity. Chelsea have been acting like drunks in a casino, and they really have been going mad. It makes no sense to do this. With all my football experience, knowing how players become unhappy, as we've seen, with a lot of noise at the weekend from Raheem Sterling, those sort of things become impossible to manage with high quality players. They're now going to have 53. Well, there'll at least be 25 agents that will be knocking on their door every single morning trying to find out what's going on for their client. And there'll be a lot of players. And the trouble is, those players can't go to Maresca and ask him because Maresca probably doesn't know. And that's the issue. He doesn't know what's going on. And so, I saw the photograph or the film of Bowley leaving the game on the 85th minute at the weekend looking a very worried man. And so he should, because, it's coming home to roost, and this is a real mess. I don't think there is any grand plan behind it. I just think they've been stockpiling quality. They think they can then hopefully, sell some. But I think that there's not many willing buyers out there right now, given the PSR climate, etc. Given the Saudi market seems to have dried up to a great extent. So I think they've got a big problem.
For sure. And you mentioned Sterling obviously releasing a statement this past week and after being excluded from the squad, asking for clarity. Can we expect to see more statements like this from the players? What kind of pressure does that put on the club? And also, you talk about transfer values. When a player's being left out continually and then they're releasing statements, how does this affect their transfer value?
Yeah, look, normally if it had been a player issuing a statement like that, he would have been seen as a troublemaker and it may have given other clubs pause for thought. In this case, I think he's got nothing but sympathy. And I think you're absolutely right. I think we're going to see another 20 statements like this at any time. And it could be a really embarrassing situation for Chelsea that they're going to be facing. Even if you get five players, it's a real big problem. And it just shows that they're not respecting people as individuals. They're not respecting professionals, and they're going about inspiring some sort of squad mentality in completely the wrong way. I mean, how can you expect those players to settle down and to form a connection with the manager? I mean, we mentioned Raheem Sterling. He's now played under 5 different managers at Chelsea since he's been there. And so how can you expect stability, from a player and for him to perform at his best when he can't have that connection, and stability and a connection with a manager is such an important game, part of the game for these highly professional players. Uh, and I've always believed when I've been in clubs that stability is key, at not only at executive level but obviously also at managerial level. That's what players breed off. They want to know what they're coming into, and they need to know what to expect and what's expected of them. And so that environment is completely hostile to those issues right now. And it is not an area for high performance. I just don't see how it can be. And it seems obvious to everybody else. I don't know why it's not obvious to our friends in private equity.
For sure, and you talk about obviously all the unrest, and Trevor Chalobah is one who's been excluded completely from training activities. There are some reports as of this morning that he could potentially submit a claim for constructive dismissal after being banned from those first team facilities. Do we have any precedent for this, and is this something that we could really see come to fruition?
Well, it's, as I think I mentioned last week, it would be time probably for a player to test it, and Chelsea would be the perfect test case to do that. And I'm sure there's a few employment lawyers I know that would be keen to try and take that case. Chalobah in particular is a player that I nearly took to Villa and on loan, and I know of quite well, a very talented player, and I think has got a great opportunity to go forward, and is another one that Chelsea could have, with common sense, could have easily done well with, and it just surprises me where he's at. If it is constructive dismissal, I think that may be the wrong way they're going to go about it, but we'll have to see. As I say, I may speak to a major employment lawyer today and hear his view on the cases today, and I'll have more news for you next week.